Welcome, friends. I'm delighted to have you here at the Oldish today. Welcome to our new viewers, and of course, a warm welcome back to those who have been with us before. My name is Karen. I'm the publisher and editor of the Oldish, and it will be my pleasure to host you today on this episode. Today, we are going to look at this past week on the Oldish, the articles that we published. We always do that, and it's always interesting to see the ones that are maybe ones that you may have missed that might be relevant to your lives. We're going to talk about what happens when the funeral is over in our Let's Talk About segment. And of course, as always, we will take a look at news from around the world of the Oldish. Let's get started. This week on the Oldish, we published an article on the herpes virus and how it may affect Alzheimer's progression. Now, we're talking specifically about the herpes 6 and 7 virus. Herpes 6 is a childhood rash, typically, and herpes 7 typically affects children between 18 months and 3 years. And by the age of 5, 90% of the population in the US shows evidence of HHV7. So take a look at that article and see how it may affect the progression of Alzheimer's with the person that you love. Attitudes on aging affect quality of life. Well, we know that, don't we? Have a good attitude? It makes everything better. Study explores aging challenges facing LGBT seniors. Now, we've talked about this before, and if you're an LGBT senior, you may be interested in this article. I read a news article this morning that said that actually a lot of LGBT seniors just don't have what it takes to deal with the nonsense anymore, and they're going back in the closet in a lot of cases. That's not an ideal situation. So take a look at this study and see what you can learn from that. You may want to skip the soda, even if it's diet. I pretty much skip the soda all the time. Too much sugar. My latest thing that I make on a daily basis and crave when I skip a day is a matcha latte. Matcha is a Japanese tea, and I make it into a latte with almond milk. It's really good. But if you want to skip the soda or you're thinking about doing that, this article is for you. Live to 105 and you may finally stop aging. Do I have to wait till 105? Wow. There is apparently evidence that on a cellular level, if we make it to 105, our cells stop aging, and you've got a pretty good chance of being 106. I think I would want to live to 105, provided I could be healthy while I was doing it. So those cells had better do more than just keep me alive. Blue Bottle Program prepares seniors for medical emergencies. Now, there are lots of programs that are kind of like this, but this particular article describes a program where in one given community, seniors fill out their medical information on a sheet of paper and they put it inside of a blue bottle, and I believe it's stored in a refrigerator. And there is a notification somewhere, somehow, to EMS workers that this bottle is there. It provides vital information at a time when it is most needed. Now, there are lots of programs like this. The community that I live in has one that is similar. It has a different name. It would be, however, really nice if all of these programs got together and came up with a standard name and a standard process. I said to Heather, who is our main Oldish writer, that my community has such a program, and it is very localized to this town. Our EMS workers, however, look after the entire county. So if other towns within the county have similar programs with different names and different colored bottles, it makes it a little challenging. However, we have a solution for you. If you are a member of the Oldish, don't forget that you have access to our medication checklist in the toolkit. Now, it doesn't cost you anything to be a member. It's completely free. You just need to be behind a password-protected firewall, because on things like the medication checklist, you're going to be entering personal information, none of anybody's business. However, this checklist you can fill out, and it has your family health team, it has your blood type, your emergency contacts, all the medications you take, the allergies you have, and so on. And you can save it here, but the best part about it is that you can email it. So you could email it to your physician your primary care physician, and ask that it be made a permanent part of your medical records, which of course then can be accessed in the case of an emergency. You could email it to your next of kin, or you could simply print it out and carry it in your wallet, or put it up on a refrigerator or a cupboard somewhere. Lots of things you can do, but there are lots of great programs out there, so please pick one. Whatever you do, pick one, because vital information is often needed at the most precarious times, and if they don't have access to it, it's your life that hangs in the balance. Okay, let's talk about when the funeral is over. So when the funeral is over and the last of the food has been eaten and the visitors have all gone home, apart from coming to terms with their new reality, the family that is left behind must contend with the business of dying. And it's often some real work. The estate has to be settled, which means the will has to be read and the assets have to be distributed. The process itself can be very simple. It can also be very complex. It can take a short amount of time, or it can take a long amount of time. And what happens in the day-to-day life of the family that is left behind while all this is going on is largely dependent on how the business of your lives was set up before your loved one passed away. Now, when I say the business of your life, I don't mean the family business necessarily. I mean the bank accounts, the insurance policies, the investments. Who has access to what? And are they set up to account for the possibility that the process of probate could be months long? And meanwhile, the bills keep coming. The mortgage has to be paid, or the rent if that's the case, the hydro bill, the heat bill, and the family has to be fed and clothed. What about that? How does that happen? So a story recently surfaced in my circle of friends. I won't go into too many identifying details, but the widow was left without the ability to access the family business accounts. So the way that they were set up sounds as though they maintained a joint personal account. She had access to that, but this account was fed with regular withdrawals from the family business. Well, of course, upon notification of her husband's passing, everything was frozen, solid. And in her case, the probate took months. So it was really quite a pickle to be in. Fortunately, they had credit cards that could be tapped, so it didn't require a signature. So that was able to be used for some things, and they were able to use the money in the joint checking account that she did have access to pay the minimum balances on the credit cards. But, you know, this sort of thing can only go on for so long. Ultimately, word got out very discreetly amongst a small circle of friends that they didn't have any money for food. And it's not that they didn't have money. Don't misunderstand this. There was money. It was just all frozen due to her husband's passing and the process of probate. Instead of flowers, donations, or other items of remembrance, this widow received from this group of people a card, a sympathy card that everybody signed, but when she opened the card, out spilled hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of gift cards. That must have been such a relief and a blessing for her to see. So with those gift cards, she was able to purchase food, drugstore items, and gas for her car while probate carried on. So when our loved one passes, there is a lot to deal with. And we all want to tend to offer comfort, flowers, advice. In some circumstances, though, it might be more prudent for neighborhoods or church groups to dig a little deeper and see if this widow's circumstance applies in the recent passing in your community. And if it does, this very practical gift could be such a blessing. Of course, we all want you to set things up perfectly before you die, but it doesn't always happen that way. I'll leave that little idea with you, and maybe it will be something that twigs a memory if the circumstance ever arises in your family or your community. Around the world with the oldish. Let's take a look at the stories and news from around the world. Seniors are the hidden homeless, according to social workers in Newfoundland. There are gaps in the support system due to the fact that 80-year-olds can't be treated the same way as 25-year-olds, and some shelters won't even accept anybody over the age of 65. The public's perception of a homeless person doesn't extend to the elderly, which provides an additional set of problems. Seniors are the most common victims of lottery, sweepstakes, and prize schemes. $117 million has been taken from North Americans in 2017. 117 million from North Americans, so that's in Canada and the US. The majority of the scam victims are between 65 and 74, and the average loss is $500. Wire transfers are the most common form of these thieves getting the money away from their victims. So if anybody ever calls you and suggests a wire transfer, please know that there is no such thing as a lottery or a prize give out, a scheme of any kind, a sweepstake that will require you to transfer money to them in order to claim your prize. It just doesn't happen. Please be aware of that. Now, later on in July, Constable Jamie Stanley is going to be here with us. He's from the Ontario Provincial Police, and his specialty is dealing with scams, and particularly scams perpetrated on the elderly. He was to be here in June. He's had to reschedule due to his need to go around to schools before they closed and have a final chat with the little ones before they got out on summer vacation. But he's going to be joining us later in July, and we'll promote that for you so that you can be aware of that program, and you can maybe watch it live and ask questions of Constable Jamie. We've done a few stories on the integration of university or college students with seniors housing, and it looks like the private sector is taking that model in hand. The Symbiosis co-housing project in Hamilton, Ontario, is matching students from McMaster with aging seniors who are community dwelling. The program offers low-cost housing for students, along with support and company for seniors who have a room to spare. I'm sure that part of the program is making sure that everybody is vetted appropriately, so I don't think that's something we have to worry about, but what a lovely idea. The Public Health Agency of Canada says that in 2016, caregivers spent $1.4 billion in out-of-pocket expenses. Wrap your head around this. This is only in Canada. $1.4 billion, with a B, billion dollars in out-of-pocket expenses, providing care for aging seniors who live at home. It's an outrageous amount of money. One study participant said that unpaid caregivers experience distress that is compounded by not enough hours of government-provided care and long wait times for nursing home beds. Citizens in Spain, which has seen the disappearance of the traditional four-generation home where everybody took care of each other, are looking for alternatives, and some may have found a good one. Jubilaires is a community of people that promotes senior co-housing, that supports a system of care that is intentional and based on meaningful relationships rather than on services. They've acquired a 22-acre plot of land, and they intend to build their 190 private bungalows, communal kitchens, and eating spaces, along with space for leisure and exercise. One professor is cautioning the group, however, that despite good intentions with nobody obligated to help, the aging process with certain health situations can get messy and a little complicated. A European project called Seniors, all in capital letters, is advocating the use of crash test dummies that more accurately represent an aging human in the hope of lowering road fatalities. The crash test dummy that has been built, resulting from data that determined that the statistically average person is a replica of a 70-year-old woman with a BMI of 29, and she is 1.61 meters or 5.28 feet in height. And this dummy is being used in some crash tests now, and of course the objective of the group is to have that dummy used in crash tests with all makes and models of cars in an effort to keep people safe. The normal crash test dummy that is used, I believe, is representative of somebody in the 20 to 35 age range. So this is quite a substantial change. All right, that's our news from around the world of the oldish. I'm going to put up our website here so that you can see where to find our articles at theoldish.com. We're also on Instagram and Twitter, and of course we have a show on the new Instagram TV. So if you want to take a look at that, if you're on Instagram, we would certainly welcome you. Give us a like if you're over there. We do share all of those programs to Facebook as well, so that you can get a chance to see them there. We share all over the place. And of course, we're on YouTube. This program will be uploaded to YouTube as soon as we're done, and the captions are put on. So please plan to join us next Wednesday for another edition of The Oldish Live. Do take care of each other. There's quite a heat wave going on in the Northeast, and indeed all across the lower south, I believe, if I saw the weather correctly this morning. So check on those aging seniors who live by themselves, and maybe you know that they don't have air conditioning, because there are cooling centers in every town, and you need to make sure that they're drinking enough water so that they are well. It does indeed take a village to age a senior. We'll see you next week. Bye.